Good morning. I'd like to call the Human Resources Appointment and Equity Committee, Tuesday, July 5th, to order. Can we have a roll call, please?
Calling the roll, Ms. Conwell.
Here.
Mr. Gallagher.
Here.
Mr. Germano.
Here.
Mr. Miller.
Here.
Ms. Brown. Here. We have a quorum.
And before we, is there any public comment related to the agenda?
No, Madam Chair, no one has signed in.
All right, and before we go to the approval of minutes, we need to ask Chrissy how many days left before she gets married?
32.
All right, so let's, 32, for the record, 32 days and counting. We always like to put a little notation of what our staff are doing. We're proud of them and all their positive achievements. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes from the June 7th meeting?
Second.
All right, all in favor? Say aye. All right. And Mr. Glassburn, I heard you got married as well, so we don't want to leave out the administrative staff.
I've still got 4 days to go.
4 days to go. Okay, okay. So my information was incorrect. Because I had left a meeting. You didn't have to come off your honeymoon and come here. So, okay, so my information was incorrect. So 4 days from now, he'll be saying, I do forever, right? All right.
I only want to pay the license fee once.
Okay, all right, smart deal. All right. Matters referred to the committee today, we have 3, and we're going to be done by 11 o'clock for Board of Control, or 10 minutes to 11, so the committee members can get to Board of Control. Can you read the first item into the record, please?
Resolution 2016-0104, confirming the county executive's appointment of Terry Allen to serve as co-chair in the Cuyahoga Regional HIV Health Services Planning Council for an unexpired term ending 6/30/2018.
All right, Mr. Glassburn, if you could give us a background on this committee, please.
Sure. The Ryan White funding comes through Cuyahoga County's Regional HIV Planning Council. It's federal funds. There's a lot of federal rules as to what individuals must be on the board. There must be some individuals that are in themselves HIV positive. There must be individuals who are practitioners. There must be representatives of the geographical area. Our geographical area is not just Cuyahoga County, but extends to Ashtabula and Lake and Lorain, Cuyahoga, and I think I'm missing one. But it's the general greater Cleveland area. And so the board has to have both demographic representational and, again, various role representation. With this appointment specifically, the chair of the board had to resign for personal reasons. Commissioner Allen very graciously offered to step up to fill the spot for the moment. We will have another large grouping in the next couple meetings for this year's set of appointments to the board.
Will Mr. Allen continue out the remainder of this term?
Yes, and may continue as long as he's willing to do so.
All right. Mr. Allen, good morning. If you could come up. First, we would like to thank you for stepping up. We know some of the boards and commissions still need filling, and so we value the time that you're willing to give, and you're related into the health field, so you bring a wealth of knowledge. If you could share with this committee what other reasons or background that you bring to this.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of council. Thank you for considering the appointment. And for the record, I've been married for 22 years, so my honeymoon has passed, like many of us here.
But you're still the love of your life, right?
That's exactly right,
All right.
for the
It's on
record,
the record.
very much so. We, on behalf of Cuyahoga County, administer the Ryan White program for the region, as Mr. Glassburn described. And, it's a very important program providing medical and supportive services for folks living with HIV and AIDS. The Planning Council design is meant to allow folks who are dealing with HIV and AIDS and the challenges to bring forward their concerns and to share them as part of the planning process and the decision-making process about allocating funds into different categories for services. Our staff work very hard in that role to assure that we spend the dollars according to the federal rules, also that we spend all the dollars that we can to make sure that services reach those who need them. I've been in public health, governmental public health for 27 years in a variety of roles, and have had some range of experience on committees and boards, and I look forward to serving in this role with our counterparts from the city of Cleveland, the members of the planning council that represent the medical community, represent those that are dealing with and living with HIV and AIDS, as well as a range of other constituents. It's an important program, and we've been very fortunate to see those dollars been fairly stable in the context of health reform. There's been some uncertainty as to what would happen with Ryan White over time as folks develop a medical home through the Affordable Care Act. So at this point, we are finding that those dollars have remained fairly stable over the last few years. And we hope that that is the case so that we can serve as many people as possible to the degree that their needs are met. I appreciate your consideration and be happy to answer any questions.
All right. I don't know how long have you went to attended a meeting yet?
Yes, I've been to a number of meetings over the past few years.
Okay, so just recently learned some statistics in regards to, I was talking to someone that lives in the Garden Valley area, and they were stating that AIDS is really prevalent in that area. They're a director of a community center down there, and so what does this organization or this board and commission do when you have high stats in a specific area of, especially in this day and time with AIDS? Could you share that with the committee?
Sure. We work very closely with the Cleveland Department of Public Health that has, in this particular instance, responsibility for the analytics around cases of HIV and AIDS, and also how the outbreak is evolving, and understanding that we're seeing an increased prevalence of African American males associated with HIV and AIDS, and so understanding that how the outbreak shifts on demographics, but then also looking more community-wide at the viral load. Our goal is certainly with the antiretroviral drugs available to assure that the viral load for the community is reduced, to reduce the opportunity for an incidence of the spread of HIV and AIDS. And so from the analytics side, the city periodically crunches the numbers and then provides data community-wide to understand the nature of the outbreak, and then that data will feed into and get presented to the Planning Council periodically so that decisions can be made about how to allocate resources. If there are specific needs in areas, if they're brought forward to the council, they can then be made aware of those where they might not otherwise be aware, and use that in their decision-making process to assure that adequate resources are strategically placed among the agencies that have been serving the community for some time. Very dedicated people. There have been people involved in the Planning Council for over 15 years and longer. And so I think they have a pretty good sense of the need, but also are very interested in hearing from folks that are specifically affected and make sure that we're working to identify and address their needs.
So do you think does this board and commission deal with linkages in terms of education, educating that population that has shown an outbreak or a spread?
Certainly when they look at the range of services that are available for people that are living with HIV and AIDS on the prevention side, there are messages around prevention, but this particular Part A coverage is meant to provide the supportive services for those that are living with HIV and AIDS. Certainly we, from an overall public health message and a prevention message, I think that's important to go along with not only the treatment, that you combine that with messages around prevention. And so certainly from the Garden Valley community, I can take that message strongly back to the Planning Council to make sure that they're aware. We can detail what's being done both on the prevention and treatment front to make sure that those issues are being adequately addressed.
All right, I would like to open it up to committee. Councilman Miller.
Madam Chair, Director, there's a number of persons with HIV/AIDS in Cuyahoga County currently stable, increasing, or decreasing?
Well, I think we've seen some stability in the numbers. The antiretroviral drugs, in particular, have been very important. But we are seeing a surge, particularly in the African American male population, that is concerning. And so those statistics, I can make sure that they're available. And didn't come this morning prepared to provide the statistics relative to the appointment, but I would be happy to, on behalf of the Planning Council, along with some statisticians, to provide a sense of the scope and magnitude of the outbreak and share that with the committee. And then also to correspondingly do what we can, and this is an important piece from the Planning Council side, is to continue future recruitment, working with the administration to assure that the members of the council reflect the nature of the outbreak, so that they can speak to the challenges that folks living with HIV and AIDS face, and also to give us some good advice on how to reach difficult populations to reach. And so I can come back specifically with the statistics, but know that that is a particular population that we are seeing within the city of Cleveland and some of the first-ring communities where we're seeing that concern emerge, and a challenge that we face in the context of other sexually transmitted infections, that you have to think about them and together from a preventive standpoint.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Allen? All right, hearing none. Thank you, Mr. Allen, for your
Thank you,
willingness
Madam
to
Chair.
serve.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming down. Mr. Glassburn, is Mr. Allen stepping into the chairman's role? Is there an urgency to move this second reading suspension?
I think that it would be, it was a somewhat unexpected resignation, so if we could move faster, I think the Planning Council would be appreciative.
All right, and this committee has no problem with that, so I would like to make a motion to move this to the full council second reading suspension. Is there a second? Second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you. Chrissy, if you could read the next item into the record, please.
Resolution 2016-0105, confirming the county executive's appointment of David Marquardt to serve on the District 1 Public Works Integrating Committee for an unexpired term ending 6/21/2018, confirming the appointment of Christopher George to serve as alternate to David Marquardt, confirming the appointment of Nicole English to serve as an alternate to Michael Dever.
All right, Mr. Glassburn, if you could give us some background on this, please.
Sure. The District 1 Public Works Integrating Committee, affectionately known as DOPWIC, is the state's version of NOACA in terms of it is the local process for the state's divided into, I believe, 12 ODOT districts, and they allocate funding by ODOT district. So this committee is the entity that helps to determine where funds are spent within the district we are in, which happens to be Cuyahoga County, and matches perfectly. We have two appointments to this board. Previously in the Ohio Revised Code, there was a requirement that it was the county engineer, and Mr. Marquardt, while that is no longer a requirement, Mr. Marquardt would have fulfilled that requirement. We also have our current other appointee is the director of the department, Mr. Dever. We have two alternates here designated. Out of the three individuals who left, so there are two positions and two alternates, two of the individuals retired, Jamal Husani and Stan Kozaleski, who you may have known, and then the third took employment, Mr. Kubek took employment somewhere else. So we are refilling our positions on this committee to ensure that the county is well represented and that the funds are spent well that are allocated from the state.
Mr. Glassburn, just wanted to ask in regards to how many, I know you said there was 12 districts, but how many people sit on this board? Is there a large number?
I believe there's 7.
7, and we have 2?
We have 2.
Out of that 7? Okay, and then my other question, I guess, would be, before we get to Mr. Markward, would be, when we have alternates that sit on, and it is an uneven number, just by any chance that the alternates are filling in for the individuals and there's a substantial vote or something that comes down, and the alternate and the regular person has a difference of opinion. Have we ever gotten to that situation?
Hello, Madam Chairman. Michael Dever with Public Works. Actually, no, we usually collaborate before an official vote is taken so that the department or the county's interest is expressed at that meeting. So it's not an individual opinions going up there and making votes. So we know specifically, and actually Claire Kilbane, who's the program administrator for the county for this DOPWIC for the district. So if you need further information about the 7 board members or anything like that, I'm sure she'd be able to step up and speak on those matters too.
All right, is there any other entity that has the same number of appointments or greater than us?
The city of Cleveland has 2 appointments to the board, Miss Valerie McCall, and who is serves for the mayor of Cleveland, I believe it is, and then also Matt Sprance, who is the director of capital projects for the city of Cleveland. And then there's two mayors that currently serve on also the board, Mayor Renda and Mayor LaCastro from Brattonall.
Okay. And does each county have their own DOPWIC boards and commission?
There's actually, it's a total of 19 districts,
Okay.
and Cuyahoga County is the largest.
All right, so we're heavily represented.
Yes.
All right, that's what my concern was. Thank you.
David Marquardt.
Good morning, David. How are you?
Good morning. Good.
All right, if you would share with this committee, I believe is this a reappointment or is this a new appointment for you?
This is a new appointment.
All right. So if you could share with us your background that you bring for this?
First thing I'd like to mention is what the DOPWIC committee's function is in a brief explanation. That function is to solicit, score, and select projects for funding through one of OPWC's programs. And it uses a merit-based system that is established by Ohio Revised Code and is modified for local district needs. They have 5 funding programs. The 2 major funding programs that the majority of the funds are applied to are the SCIP and LTIP. The SCIP is the State Capital Infrastructure Program. LTIP is Local Transportation Infrastructure Program. Those 2 programs comprise roadway and bridge and infrastructure that includes water systems, sewer systems, and stormwater systems, as well as solid waste disposals. My resume that I gave to the committee, I apologize, it's a little bit out of date. It doesn't include my employment here. The total public service that I have is about 35 years at this point. I also have about 6 years in the private sector prior to my public employment. And in amongst all of that, also a 11-year stint running a small business enterprise with my wife that employed 10 people. So it's a fairly diverse resume. It does show that most of my work history involved planning, design, and construction of public improvements and subsequent maintenance and operation of those improvements. The areas of involvement with those types of projects were municipal and county bridge and highway and traffic systems, municipal and county water distribution and treatment systems, sanitary sewer collection and treatment systems, and stormwater systems. So that's a broad range of public infrastructure that I do feel with my role at Cuyahoga County now as design and construction administrator and having the duties of county engineer, that my experience history does involve the execution, design, and maintenance of the infrastructure that is directly in line with the funding programs that are offered through OPWC and executed through the integrating committee. I believe that if, based on my responsibilities and experience, that my appointment confirmation by council to the committee would allow me to provide my knowledge and experience and hopefully provide a positive service to the communities involved in District 1 of OPWC. Thank you.
Thank you for your willingness to serve. Is there any questions for Mr. Marquette? Councilwoman Brown.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning.
Good morning.
You expressed that the responsibility is to solicit, score, and select with the caveat that you can modify that scoring system based on the local needs. Can you give us an example of what that modification would look like?
Yeah, I don't have an exact example, but what they've allowed or permitted in the process is there was an Ohio Revised Code that established the ranking criteria that was necessary. You had to meet that. But then they permit each of the 19 different jurisdictions to kind of customize their ranking system based on the needs of the local jurisdictions. And that's what I was referring to when I said that.
You might not be familiar, maybe Ms. Kilbane might understand where I'm headed. There were some conversations in our planning commission with regards to the scoring system. Are you familiar with any revisions that were recently made to the system?
I am not familiar with any recent ones, no.
Okay. And with regards to your current residents and we're serving District 1, do you reside in District 1 as it pertains to Dopwick?
No, I don't.
Okay.
My residence is in Summit County.
Okay, and so which district does that fall under? Do you know, are you aware?
That's District 8. Yeah.
Okay, all right. And if Ms. Kilbane can speak to the previous question, that would be helpful to me. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Claire Kilbane. I am the Assistant Director of the Cuyahoga County Planning Commission, but since 1988, every year we enter into agreement with the DOPWIC and through the Ohio Public Works Commission, and I act as the liaison to from the state to the committee and to applicants. So. To your question, Councilman Brown, the committee met on June 23rd, and Mayor Sellers, who spoke at the County Planning Commission, who is a member, did arrive a little bit late, but they had decided before that not to make any major changes to the evaluation process, understanding because we had just changed it, they wanted to let it go one more year to get a sense of how it's working, leaving it open to make changes for the upcoming next year. They did make one change after that, after they decided not to make a change, but it was to scoring of the county's projects in one category to, we look at the economic health of each community as they apply. And the county sponsors projects, and we were awarding the economic health of the county to the projects. And instead, we're now going to give it to the community that the county is partnering with, which is most often a higher score. So it's to the benefit of the communities. But that was just a very technical.
Just for the record, just so I'm clear, the districts to include more than one county, correct? So
Yeah,
Okay.
there's 19 districts throughout the state. There's 7 districts that are single county, and those are like the major Cuyahoga, Franklin, Hamilton, Lucas, Summit, and Stark. The other ones are either, they can be 3 to 18 counties.
okay, all right. Thank you very much.
All right.
Right. Councilman Miller?
Madam Chair, I have a question probably to Chris Glassburn as to whether council confirmation is required for naming of alternates.
I'm not sure from a legal basis if it's required or not. It's the council ordinance there is a council ordinance that specifically allows for designating alternates. And that's the basis to which we're making these appointments. So generally speaking, if there is a privilege that is conferred in the Ohio Revised Code that is given to the former county commissioners, the way we approach it is the executive makes the appointment and council confirms. So we're treating the alternates in the same way. But I don't know that I don't know if there's a legal opinion or not on the subject.
Okay, well, we appreciate you bringing it to us. Thank you.
Amy, do you have anything to share on that?
Good morning, Amy Marquette Renwald with the Law Department. I'm not aware that there has been a legal opinion addressed on that issue. I would agree with Mr. Glassburn, but I am happy to look into it.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Marquette or Chris or Ms. Kilbane? All right.
The previous question, the Ohio Revised Code gives the appointing authority to appoint the member and the alternates. So the county appoints 2 committee members and each one has an alternate. Just as the mayor of the city of Cleveland, they appoint 2 members and he also appoints their alternates. And the Mayors and Managers Association, 2 mayors and then 2 alternates. So, and then there's the 7th member is appointed by the other 6, and it's Miss Debbie Berry right now. She represents the private interests, so, and she has no alternate.
So in that formal process of the 6, I don't think I knew that, the 6 appoint the 7th person. Is there a process? Could you share with this committee a little bit how they go about picking that person?
They make nominations, and then the 6 decide on who they agree to one person. It's been, there's only been 3. Mr. Carlton Schnell was an attorney with Arter and Haddon was the first one. And he served for like 12, 13 years. Miss Berry has been on for about 4 years.
Thank you. Any further questions? Mr. Glassburn, is there a rush for this to go through? I see the term expiring in 2018, but I don't know the way it stands right now. Are we current?
I'm going to yield to Mr. Dever on this.
The next meeting of DOPWIC is August 18th, so as long as we can have these positions filled by that time. So I'm sure we can go to 3 readings on this.
All right.
Madam Chair.
Councilman Miller?
I'll make a motion to favorably recommend resolution 2016-0105 to the full council for second reading.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Marquardt, for your willingness to serve. Chrissy, if you can read the next item into the record, please.
Resolution 2016-0117, adopting various changes to the Cuyahoga County non-bargaining classification plan.
All right. Good morning, Albert. How are you?
Good morning, Madam Chairwoman, members of council. Albert Pouchahine with the Personnel Review Commission. Here requesting your consideration for modifications to the county's non-bargaining classification plan. The county has entered into a collective bargaining agreement with the Laborers Union Local 860 to represent employees in the county fiscal office. As a result, we're recommending the deletion of 10 non-bargaining classifications that are exclusive to the fiscal office and have no incumbents. These changes were prepared by the PRC class and comp staff who've worked extensively with the Department of Human Resources and Department Management to ensure that they're fully informed of these recommendations before you. In accordance with the PRC rules, the proposed changes were posted on the PRC's website for 20 days prior to formal action. The PRC considered and approved recommending these changes to you at their June 29th, 2016 meeting. Thank you for your consideration, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, to be clear, Mr. Boucher, all these classifications have moved into bargaining unit, correct?
Correct, Madam Chair.
All right, and you said that was local 860?
It's Laborers Local 860.
All right, so I had one question in regards to reading them over for salaries. Hopefully it's a simple question and not a long drawn out one, but the job salary increases, I'm assuming that they were determined due to current pay rates in the union? So those that did get some increases from like 9B to 10B was because I'm assuming that they were what the employees already were getting.
Madam Chair, these employees that were on the non-bargaining salary schedule, their rates of pay are were negotiated through the collective bargaining process. Unfortunately, I'm not familiar what those rates are in the collective bargaining agreement. I would have to defer to the Department of Human Resources and the Law Department who negotiated those contracts. What I can tell you is that these employees are now part of a bargaining unit. There are no incumbents in these classifications in the class plan, and that's why we're here before you. But with respect to their salaries, those were part of a collective bargaining between the HR department and the union.
Okay. Any other councilwoman? Oh. Any questions for Mr. Boucher? All right. Thank you, Albert, for your time.
Thank you for your consideration.
Morales? I've been on break too long, I guess. Just if you could shed some light on that question, because I was kind of assuming since they were in non-classified, then they moved into a bargaining unit, their starting point would be brought up to, I guess, the lowest. Did I assume that right, or is there a little bit more involved in that?
Ed Morales with the Department of Human Resources. And my understanding is that the changes to the class plan here are not to change pay grades, but to delete these classifications from the plan itself. So the pay rates for all of the employees, and there are incumbents, but they're not non-bargaining anymore. So there are no non-bargaining incumbents. They were negotiated and agreed upon. So the parameters that approved by council, the collective bargaining agreement approved by council was a parameters deal following the 2% pattern for 2015 and 2016, and then the adoption of a bargaining grade in the collective bargaining agreement.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions? I think this has been the easiest classification change we've had. Is there any rush can go 3 readings? All right, I'd like to make a motion to move this to the full council for second reading. Is there a second? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right. Anyone signed in for public comment not related to the agenda?
No, Madam Chair.
This meeting is adjourned.